talented artists, Manon Voice and Ashley Baskin. This workshop is fundamentally about reconnecting with our own creativity and resiliency. We are all experts of our own experiences, and it is that wisdom we seek to draw upon in our time together. So now, without further ado, I'll turn it over to lyricist, poet, activist, Manon Voice.
All right, there we go. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Peace to you. So good to see your beautiful faces this morning. And Tatiana, hello. always got to shout out my loved ones. Yes, and peace to all of you. So thank you so much for joining us today and for that powerful introduction. Like Stacia, I would just like to echo the sentiment that creativity and resilience is a part of our inherited DNA, that it is a part of our essential nature as human beings, as Black and Brown people, that we are naturally whole, creative, and resourceful. We are naturally whole, creative, and resourceful people. We are a people that has and continues to make it through catastrophic times using our own strength, our own resilience. And so we don't have to think that creativity and resilience is something that exists outside of us. We have always had the tools within ourselves. And so today we're just going to start out with identifying what is unique to us all that we have. Maybe what are some things that are already in our storehouse that maybe we haven't identified as being a part of our creative resilience, but it is in fact something that has continued to nourish us. And so I would just like to open up with a little activity. If you have a paper and a pen in front of you, hoping, but even if you don't, maybe you can, do this on your phone. And so this exercise, you create a circle. Okay. Stacia, am I can you put me as the person in the bigger box?
Sure. For everybody, that means just hitting your speaker view.
Okay.
And then everybody else being on mute.
Okay. Thank you. So you're going to create a circle, and then put a circle within the circle with your name. And so I put this circle, Manon, and then on the outside of that, I want you to write down all of the things that make up who you are. All of the things, if I was to ask you, who are you? What makes up who you are? What is your essential self? What are those things? So try not to think too hard about it. Really let it come from a heart space first, and just write some of those things down. And I'll just give you a few examples. For me, I wrote nature, sacred circles, community, jazz music, cooking, spirituality, writing letters, writing poems, chicken noodle soup. I make a wonderful chicken noodle soup. Get as specific too. Get as specific as possible. So we'll just take a couple minutes to do that. And so hopefully by now you've had time to jot down a couple of things um, in your circle. And now what I would like for you to do is if you can flip that page, and then I want you to, on the next page, write creative, a box for creativity and a box for resilience. And then I want you to list from that circle, what are the things that allow you to express yourself and be creative? And then what are the things that strengthen and nourish you? And that's attributed to your resilience. And what I want you to identify is if those things overlap. Are the things that nourish you and give you resilience and support you, are those also a part of your creative work? So see if those overlap. See where they fall, like on that list. So just take a couple of minutes to do that. And then I would love, even if we could maybe just share a couple, or maybe share what your discoveries were. So I will go first. Hopefully you have a couple of items by now. So I made my creative list. I made my resilience list. So I wrote writing poetry. And then like when I thought about it, I'm like, wow, yes, like that enables me to be like resilient. So I put the arrow, yes. Gardening, that enables me to be resilient. Wow, yes. And then even in like resilience, I had like hiking, which essentially I didn't feel like was like essentially a form of creative expression, but it allows me to be more creative. So like when I hike, when I'm like in nature, when I come home, I like want to paint. I want to be like creative. You know, it's like my brain is clear, so I have space
Hi,
to
this
do
is
that.
Arisa. I want education, please.
This is the creativity workshop.
Yeah, sorry, I
Yeah,
think I'm in a wrong.
Yeah,
wrong
we'll
list.
make sure that you get where you need to be. Give me just a second.
Thank you, Ken.
It's Arisa Miyakozawa, who's in the creativity session. She needs to be moved. You can go ahead.
Okay.
Manon.
Thank you. And then also on my resilience side, I had spirituality. And then that goes back to me. So once I connect with myself spiritually, that being an essential part of my resilience, that also opens me up for creativity. That also opens my creative power. And so hopefully you were able to see what that was for you and how yours overlap. I would love for us to share, or this could even just lead into the next phase of the conversation if I'm over I think I'm over like my opening time. So
I definitely would love to hear if anybody wants to share, and then we can turn it over to Ashley.
yeah. So did you find any overlap?
Is someone sharing?
Doesn't look like it.
Okay, I'll share, I guess. We would love for a participant to share if they want to, but I'll just briefly share that what I put down for resilience was, and it relates to my spirituality, continuing my study to understand the unseen, the divine spirit, singing. Community was the only one for me that overlapped into the creative because community is important to me. Then I spend a lot of time as a person trying to work to make the community better, and that goes in my creativity. And then I had family, which is part of my resilience, and gospel music. But for the creative, I have detail-oriented problem solver, and then writing haikus, and then trying to create a better world, which also links to my resilience. So I only have two that link to my resilience.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
I guess I'll share too. All of mine overlapped.
Wow.
So, yeah, which was really interesting to me. Like I started going through to try to figure out what column and then realized it was kind of all just the same column for me. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah.
That all of yours overlap, but do you want to share what some of yours were?
Yeah, well, I had a lot of like honest, because I pride myself on my honesty, and in my work and my creative work, it's kind of what I pride myself on. Extension of ancestors, home. I just feel like all of it, you know, emotional, an educator and a witness. It just, for me, it all kind of, it bleeds into what I do creatively as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll share too. Similar to Tatiana, I found the majority of mine overlapped. And for me, I mean, I had initially things like being a mother, which I definitely think I have to be creative in order to raise my son. But also loving on him and him loving on me is a part of my resiliency. Simple stuff like playing the trombone was easy to put in both categories. I see all the arts as a way of healing and transformation. At least that's how they played in my life. So that was easy. But the shocking one for me was one of the things that I include in my story is that I'm a survivor of childhood violence and intimate partner violence. And I wasn't sure where to put that. But then I realized that is such a big part of my story because it's what's fueled my passion for mental health, for healing, even my passion for the arts. And so it kind of blends in both categories as well.
Yes, 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 yes.
Thank you for sharing. So for me, it was kind of like a feeding off of one another. So kind of if you're thinking of things kind of like a one piece of something, and then the larger piece kind of adding to the whole. So one of the things that stood out to me is I actually feed off of the creativity that children just bring naturally. The things that they say, the things that they do. But part of what feeds me is the community, right? So those two things, they kind of speak to each other, because you can easily say that children and community are essentially synonymous. However, the way that I feed in that space is children And then what builds the resilience for me is the community aspect.
Mm.
And then similar to what some other individuals have already shared, like jazz music feeds my creativity as well as builds that resilience piece, because I can tune into what's going on, to the vibrations that I hear from with the jazz tunes, and it's sending all of these different messages within my body that's also creating things, like whether I'll write something or whether I'll perform something because I'm a dancer. So that relationship was very interesting to me as I was writing that down. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Is anybody else?
I'll share a little bit. I, like a lot of you all, found that a lot of my things overlapped, which is very interesting because as an artist, I live by, Nina Simone's quote, and I'm paraphrasing, but just as an artist, it's an artist's duty to reflect the times, right? And reflect what's going on. And so like my life, before I even became aware of that concept or that idea, was kind of a mix between expression of artistry and how that relates to me as a Black woman, how I take up space in this world, how I navigate. And so I guess it shouldn't have been surprising that a lot of how I define myself falls in both. But some things that I found interesting as I was making this list, and I was trying to be very intentional about keeping creative and keeping resilience as separate as I could. But there were things like, again, talking about the spirituality piece, but also talking about being a survivor, and being very sensitive and discerning, and how those things fuel both the creative and speaks also to the resiliency piece. Even for me, like wellness. And so lately I've been on this kick. I guess, we're working remotely and I'm like, girl, you ain't got nothing better to do. You might as well get yourself together. But I have actually been surprised at how from, I guess, again, I shouldn't have been, but a mental health standpoint and from just a physical standpoint, how being in a better space has created more creative avenues for me, like avenues for creative expression. I started off kind of in a funk, right? So before I started focusing on wellness and wholeness, I noticed, this path opening. And so, Manon, thank you so much for this exercise. Sometimes we don't have a lot of time, even though it seems like time is all we have right now. We don't have a lot of time to kind of sit and think and be. So yeah, so I found a lot overlap.
Thank you. Well, I will let you take it from here, Ashley.
Okay. Okay, so this was kind of actually the perfect segue into opening up. We're going to open up the discussion. We want to hear from you all. As Stacia so eloquently opened us up, talking about our resiliency as a people, as a culture, want to focus on that creativity, like as an act of spirituality, and making that connection and understanding that creative expression can also be that spiritual practice of healing, right? And so we know that just as studies have shown that trauma is inherited, as Manon so eloquently put it earlier, so is resiliency and so is creativity. And so those are things that are like ingrained in us, like in our DNA, right? As people of color, and just the various things that we've been through being in America. And so we would love to hear from you all in your various methods of expression. How do you tie creativity and resilience? How do you employ those? But especially in this context. So in this pandemic, when there are a plethora of things going on, right? So a lot of us might be working from home or working remotely, or maybe not working at all. But we also understand too that for some of us, we're managing a household, right? We have children, we may have spouses or partners. It's not only working remotely, but you can't go anywhere. So it's not like you could pick up and, I can go work from home in Starbucks today. This would be great. And then the added impact of how this impacts our mental health, right? How we feel, what we're going through, checking in with ourselves, checking in with others, trying to balance wellness, trying to balance, getting a workout in, drinking enough water, taking your vitamins, all these things that we juggle. So we want to hear from you, how you employ, how you think about, how you consider creativity, how you use that to be resilient in the midst of this chaos that we have going on. Well, we actually have a smaller group, so it can just be popcorn. Anyone that feels led to share, please share. We'll be making a list of some strategies that you all share with the group, and we'll be sending that out after the conclusion of the conference to everyone. If you're in technical difficulties, like as far as your audio is concerned, if you want to use the chat function to put your contributions in, we'll lift those up as well.
Yeah, and let me know if there's any other technical issues that come up.
And we always have Keenan.
I guess I'll go first again. I guess for a little background, prior to COVID, as some of you, I know Manon knows this, I was actually struggling with trying to figure out who I was as a writer outside of trauma and outside of talking about white supremacy. This is kind of what I just did for so long. So the interesting part that happened for me is during my self-isolation is I finally started journaling again, which I haven't done in 5-6 years, something ridiculous. And it's become a part of my morning routine of being able just to like sit and force myself to be present and write only for myself, which has been extremely helpful in just trying to tap into stuff. But I'm also in a position in my life right now where like I don't know if I am a poet any longer or if I'm just going to be a writer, you know what I mean? Like just trying to focus on being a writer and then figuring out what will come from that, and seeing how that'll manifest in a creative outward, and if it does at all get shared with the rest of the world.
Thank you for sharing that. I think you lifted up several points, but it's very important to be present for self, right? And so again, even as I was just talking, and even as you were sharing, we have all these other things on our plate, and very rarely do we take time to be present, to check in. So thank you for sharing. Journaling is something that I incorporate pretty regularly as well, so I understand kind of the freedom that can come from that, the release. And then sometimes you can look at it and really just, sometimes it might cause some confusion, or at least put you in a state of reflection, like you were saying, like, where do we go from here? So thank you.
So I can share. For me, it's been interesting. So I still work full time. And what I do on a day-to-day basis doesn't really match, I guess, the core of who I am. And so I feel like sometimes I'm living in double spaces or living a double life. My day-to-day job is working in HR. My life that, feeds me and motivates me and keeps me pumping and grooving is my dance side, my writing television series and researching. Those are the things that kind of feed my spirit. And so before COVID, I wanted to find a way to reconnect to the things that really make me happy, and one of the things that kind of came up and wasn't even like trying to make it happen, but I had been praying about it, routinely. And one of my dance mentors from my youthhood reached out to me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing like a virtual dance class? And I was like, absolutely. And I remember, participating that first class. And of course, I will have to preface this and say for 4 years, I've been working on a dissertation. So my body, was not necessarily completely there. My mind was there. My spirit was there, but my body said, Lord, have mercy. Like, it's been a minute since we have worked it out. But I was grateful that, he was able to bring so many of us together from, back in the day. I live in upstate New York. So being able to reconnect with people from DC, because that's my hometown, and reconnecting with people who live in LA now, it helped so much. And so every week it's been like this ritual, like, okay, so I'm going to my class. We're gonna work it out. My teacher, he's gonna have us all laid out on the floor. He's gonna say something crazy like, okay, y'all gonna have to take some Advil because I know your body is hurting. But it's been a blessing to have that ability to reconnect with something that used to give me so much joy as a young person. And now, in my full adult body, being able to really see the value that it brings me. Like, dance has always given me joy. Dance has always helped me to see things clearer. But because I also run a business where I'm teaching dance, I don't always have that ability to reconnect the way that I want to. And so within this pandemic, it's allowed me to really be able to reconnect and understand the power that dance actually has. So that's keeping me sane during this period. And another thing that has kind of sprung up, a sorority sister of mine decided, kind of organically, hey, Ashley, let's just record some pearls for meditation. I'll do some motivation. You'll give us some meditation, and, we'll make it short. And so we've been doing that. And that in itself has been very therapeutic, just to sit and say, okay, so whatever comes to you, I'll just vibe off of that. Or I'll just record a session based upon something that I've been meditating on for a while. And I feel like this will be beneficial for, the greater community. So that has really been feeding my spirit. And I don't want to go back to normal, quote unquote, because I'm enjoying this space quite a bit. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. That reconnecting is so important, especially if as you talked about, your professional endeavors don't necessarily match up with the core of who you are. And those of us who aren't full-time artists, such as myself, again, I completely resonate with that, right? You struggle with this. Is there an overlap? Can I make these things, mesh? Nope, there's not. Okay, so what do we do? And so you've been creative in taking this time, using these opportunities to sit and think and figure out where you can still get that fulfillment. I do want to pivot a little bit, and you can speak to it some more, because you mentioned using a virtual platform for dance classes and things like that. I work with the Asante Children's Theater, and we've had to pivot and go that direction as well. However, there's a lot of reservation initially, right? And so, again, you can speak to, or anyone else, for those of you that have been using this time to virtually engage with individuals or your audience, or even reconnect with yourself, what practices or what mindsets are you finding is most helpful and most useful in what you're doing? Also, are you experiencing any lack of connection? Because part of being an artist sometimes is feeling that energy, that palpable energy of actually being around people. And so not necessarily having that. How are you still creating that environment, or creating a space that's conducive for you to still be creative and enjoy?
Ooh, yeah. You hit a lot of areas that I have been feeling, even just teaching my students, virtually teaching dance. But one of the things, well, when the pandemic hit, so mid of March, most of course, New York pretty much was kind of on a shutdown status. And the teachers that are part of the dance school that I lead essentially said, no, I don't want to do anything virtually. And the main concern was I feel voyeuristic, like I don't want people looking at me and, looking at the babies and like all of this weirdness. And I completely understood what they were saying. But some of the things that I found to be helpful is when it is a private session, when you're not trying to do, especially from in the world of dance, when you're not trying to do like this public live, or we're going to Facebook it, we're going to be on IG, and you just share with people like, hey, would you mind being a part of my private session? I find that more people are interested in doing that. But I will say that from the dancing teacher point of view, you do feel like, ooh, okay, I got to really pull like from my insides to feel like I'm really connecting with the students, because I feed off of, if a student does a one move or a leg or something with their body, it's like, oh yeah, we should do this. But when you're virtually, you kind of miss that opportunity. And so I find myself like really looking like, okay, oh yeah, so-and-so did that. Oh, we can do this to add to the energy of the space. So it's interesting to be in a virtual platform using Zoom or whatever the other platform that exists. But I do find that people have a little bit more, I guess, ease with being in this space when it's private. It's not being live streamed or available for the masses to be a part of. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you. One of the tools that I have found useful, because I'm going to be honest, I was initially, and this is going to sound really, really morbid, but hear me out. When we first got sent home, I was very excited. For me, working from home, like, completely improved my mental health. My professional job is very, very stressful. Sometimes walking into the office is traumatic. I'm just going to be honest. And so the ability to work from home in a comfortable space, I was like, I'm in heaven. But the other thing that I thought would happen, because not being a full-time artist, I've always said, I just wish I had more time to devote to artistry and to develop. And so I thought that this was going to be this awesome time of, I can do work, or I can be an artist, or I can do work and be an artist. Nobody's going to know. I get all the time in the world. And it didn't work out like that. I spent probably the first 6 weeks, honestly, almost in a depression, very creatively stifled. Because again, not realizing the magnitude of how everything that was going on was also impacting me. And so one of the things that I have found, as I have, like I said, wellness, being one of them, but also was collaboration. So like reaching out and talking to my artist friends, right? Whether it's a Facebook message, a text message, a phone call, or, creating these weird, like socially distant, porch meetup type situations, or, virtual meetup type situations. And so I wanted to ask, one, if anyone here has also been experimenting with different types of methods of collaboration, and again, any best practices or strategies that you have found employing any of those, or if you haven't and you're interested, any questions that you may have about collaborating in this time as well.
And Ashley, I just want to lift up that we do have a chat comment too when
okay,
after we answer this question.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, while you guys are percolating on that, I am going to go ahead and lift up what was shared in the chat. and it's from Terencia Turner. I hope that I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Please forgive me or correct me if I'm not. But they say, for me, I still work from home while living alone. I've been doing meditation, reading, virtual hula hoop. That is interesting. And yoga classes. With that being said, I have to manage my time a lot better and put boundaries down when it doesn't serve me. Thank you for sharing. If you would like to, the virtual platforms that I've been using are Facebook Live and Twitch. Okay, cool, thank you. If you would also like to speak more to what it looks like to put boundaries down in this time, and maybe explain a little bit more like what you mean by that. Thank you for sharing.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, yay. All right. Was hoping this audio works. So as far as boundary setting, this is new to me, honestly, and it's a learning process. So boundary setting for me right now is looking more for me as saying no to anything that is not going towards what I'm looking for as far as my future goals, and then saying yes to myself. And that is either with, that includes friends, that includes family, that includes coworkers. And I'm saying that based from a place where a lot of times I was in an upbringing that, no was the word I knew. And, that was not a way, it was as constructive as I would have liked it to be. And I'm rewriting that narrative. And there's a way to be constructive with that, and prioritize yourself, and that's with that. Boundaries is a way to do that, and that's how I'm doing that with right now. And by the way, Twitch and Facebook Live, they don't see you when you do it, just so you know. They're the people who teaching classes are the ones that you're only seeing when you're doing the classes typically.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody is open to exploring that option, just throwing that out there.
Nice. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, and bringing more clarity. There's a theme that's kind of riding, and it's this theme of self, right? So whether it's finding self, being present for self, reconnecting to self, making self a priority. And a lot of times that's hard, especially as women, because it feels like by nature, we are nurturers. And so we are continually caring for. And like I said, if you're, I'm single, I don't have any kids. I do have 2 dogs that sometimes feel like children, but that is no comparison. I understand that. But sometimes it feels like we're always trying to look out for someone else, or to make sure that everyone else has what they need. And even if you look at the current climate, right, even with the various protests and demonstrations and things like that, again, a lot of what you see are women, and we're taking care of everyone. And then at the end of the day, we're empty. And then what is there? Who is there? How are we filling up? And so this theme of self, as everyone has shared, continues to come up. And so I just want to encourage us all to continue, again, to being present for self, reconnecting to self, setting boundaries for self, making self a priority. Is there anything else that anyone wants to share?
This is Pambana, and I'm going to share in the sense that for me, I guess, well, my kids are all grown and stuff like that, and I'm in my 60s now, but one of the things I don't think that I used to do that I do now, and I guess I would say religiously or spiritually, because I'm more spiritually oriented than religious, is I have a self-care day. And self-care day is, for me, I'm not going to do any work. I'm going to do the things that feed my soul and feed my spirit, even though throughout the week I'm doing meditation, I'm doing exercising. But that day, I'm going to read something that's inspirational, or I'm going to do something that's fun, or, I'm going to spend time with friends and family. And for me, I just feel like that really feeds my soul. And also, I guess I was saying now I've started, because I don't really consider myself to be too creative, other than I spend a lot of time thinking about community issues and what can be done about those and trying to come up with ways to deal with that. But lately I've started writing haiku. So I was like, okay, that's simple. I can do like, 575 and that kind of stuff. So for me, I guess I say that I feel like, having that downtime or that me time feeds my creativity and my resilience, because then I'm renewed to go back into the week, work on the things that I want to work on. And then I've spent that time kind of investing in stuff that, I want to learn about and think about and that kind of thing. And so now, I'm contemplating if I always wanted to learn how to play piano, if I'm going to invest in getting a keyboard kind of thing and do that too. So I just wanted to share that. But for me, my day dedicated to me doing things that I want to do or learn about or spend time with people and not work. And some people, work is fun, but I'm a person that work is work and fun is fun.
Absolutely. I'm gonna encourage you to go ahead and get that keyboard and learn the piano. Learn how to play. Thank you for sharing. Again, that's self-care, taking care of self, checking in with self, making sure that you're separating, like you said, work being work, and working remotely. If you're having to work from home, sometimes those things commingle way more than they should. Whether you get a work phone call at 9 o'clock or a text message or an email that comes through and you feel, because you see it, obligated to respond, or maybe because you took some time during the day, and maybe I'm just talking about myself, but you took some time during the day to check in with self. Now you feel like, oh, okay, well, I did take, an hour and a half to kind of take care of myself. I can work till 8 o'clock tonight. No, you don't have to. So, yeah, those things are very important. Like I said, we will send out these strategies. You guys have shared some excellent, some excellent tools and methods for coping, for staying creative, and for being resilient. I am going to take the last couple minutes and just close this out. I'm going to close this out with a song. And I hope that my intent is that this song connects to you the way that it's connected with me in light of everything that's going on in this pandemic. I'm also going to turn my camera off because I do not want you to be distracted by my faces or any expression of emotion that may occur. Okay. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom. Oh, freedom over me. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. No more mourning. No more mourning. No more mourning over me. Before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and be free. For I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free.
Thank you, Ashley.
You. That will conclude our session.
And
Thank you all for sharing.
And she had the guitar. Wow.
And she had a guitar. Hey.
And you gotta forgive me because I have not played in way too long. So
I thought it was.
I'll reconnect with that.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. And thank you, Minh, also for your contributions today. It really helped to center the conversation and show us, what we're already doing that we can use and live forward in today's crisis. I'm not going to completely close it out, but we'll have a few minutes before they transition us back to the open. We can talk among ourselves now, but when they do that, it'll be abrupt and we won't have any warning. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, feel free to talk among yourselves.
I'm interested in knowing how everybody's doing this morning with last night's event. I've just been watching. This has been such a riveting week for our community. And so I'm just wondering how, and I just think it would be, it's like we are all feeling it on some level. So I think in some ways we need to kind of bring this into the conversation. Yes. But how is everybody feeling this morning? Like, where's your heart at?
Okay, so I was late coming in. I'm not doing very well.
Same. Yeah.
I'm Hispanic, but I'm Black as well. My grandparents and whatnot. So I'm in a place where I feel like I'm always having to prove my Blackness because that's the community I'm closest to that would accept me for who I am. Mm-hmm. So long story short, I got sent home to work from home, then my pay cut, then got furloughed, and then this week they eliminated my position. Mm-hmm. And I was fine. I was like you, Ashley. I was like, I don't have to see these. Well, not like you, but I don't have to see my coworkers. I was like me. Everybody was like, and I'm thinking, why are people struggling with depression? And literally I was having depression, anxiety before, right? And then I got home and it's taken me this entire time to recenter because I've always thought about other people. I've always collaborated with other people. I've always cheered other people on. Yeah, let's do this. I believe in your vision. And then I feel like, not always, but I felt like I've been betrayed. So even when they let me go, I was like, fine, I don't have to see you again. I'm ready to reset. I'm ready to find my creative side. I'm a dancer. And so I sing as well, but dance is what feeds me. But it took me this whole time to really unwind and get back to me and get back to making God my priority. And when everything abrupted, I lost it completely because you get tired. And even though I'm not fully Black, but I have a nephew and I have a brother-in-law that are, and it bothers me because it's like, this is my first experience. I was sheltered most of my life because people tried to protect me and whatnot. And so experiencing this, I'm angry and I'm frustrated. And I've had to learn really quickly in my 30s and reflecting back the nuances of racism that I encountered and never was able to identify it until probably the last 12 months. But in all of that, I'm like, oh, I got to read more. I I was neglected in my education. What is this? What is that when they say this? It means this when this happens to me. And anyways, just to summarize it, I'm just not doing well. So I literally this morning, and I was late trying to log in, but I said, I can't be on social media. And most of my coworkers that are white, I have a lot of them that I love. I mean that with all my heart. But they just love to look at my stuff just because they have, when people don't care for you, right? But they just love to look at your social media, and I let it on full blast. I am a Christ follower, but I've had enough. I've had enough of trying to assimilate to them, to accommodating to them, to not look like I'm crazy, and not just racism, but just trying to tiptoe in their world. And so many opportunities of advancement, of development and growth. I see people getting promotions and raises left and right, and I was left out, and I was staying quiet and trying to be a team player like I always did, and I had enough, and I had a few explosions. And still, even people, one particular person of HR who is a person of color, I thought she was my sister in Christ, and she just, I don't think she realizes this, but she ended up, defending certain things that were just not cool. And then to summarize it, she's like, I think I'm going to connect you with a Latino person in our field. Because I think you have a lot to, and I was just like, are we doing this against this? Like, are we doing this? So I'm not Black enough for you to really help me and defend me like you've defended your sorority sisters, or you've defended other white people, and so that's why when I got let go this week, I was fine. I had no issues. I'm like, God, you set me up financially like crazy, y'all. If we had time, if you would only know what he has done. I've gotten out of a credit card this week, and like amazing, right? So that's been great. But I've had to take this time to like, what do I want? And the universe, I feel like God is like saying, this is the time for you to launch your business. And I'm like, oh, really? I'd rather support other people. But I feel like I've had to restart because of everything that's going on out there, but not look like a psycho, because I've